to this webinar on this very sunny day in Brussels. We are very excited to bring you this webinar on building integrated photovoltaics, solar construction products for building renovations. My name is Miguel Herrero, and I'm the coordinator of the Solar Buildings Workstream here at Solar Power Europe. Yes, I think it's been a long time coming since we organize this webinar to let you know what we have been working on in our work stream. So, do I have control, Lorena? I cannot change the slides. Okay. Anyway, we are indeed very excited to organize this, particularly in the context of the upcoming Renovation Wave, the European Union, and of the next generation EU initiative that has been launched by the European Union. The Renovation Wave initiative will hopefully bring about a change. No, sorry, Lorena, I cannot change the slides. A decarbonization of the EU's building stock, and in this, okay, can you change to the next slide, please? Thank you. So yes, we're very excited to have a very distinguished panel with Alexandra Somsted, the chairwoman of our Solar Buildings Workstream and Vice President for Europe at Aqua Energy, alongside Ron Andriessen, who is a director of the Soliance project in the Netherlands, who they will both be able to give you a little bit more insights into how solar construction products can enable the decarbonization of the EU's building stock. Before that, next, please. Just a recap of the agenda. Following my introduction, Alexandra Somsted will give some welcome remarks, and then Mr. Ron Andriessen will present what Soliance has been doing regarding the mass customization model of industrial production and how BIPV can be integrated into renovation projects. This will be followed by a Q&A session and a wrap-up by Alexandra. Next, please. I thought I was going to do some housekeeping on the Q&A. Thank you. Yes, during the Q&A session, you will be able to type your questions on the control panel that should have appeared on your screen. Yes, just type your question and click send, and we will address them. Thank you, Lorena. I think we can go next. I now give the floor to Alexandra Somsted, the chairwoman of our Solar Buildings Workstream.
Hello, everybody. Thanks a lot for attending this webinar. I'm sorry, there is a bit of background noise. That's the beauty of home working. Very excited to see you participating at such a level. So currently we are 103 people. So it shows that BIPV has a strong interest Sorry, I didn't share my camera. Here we go. So you know me, I'm the chairwoman of the Solar Building Task Force at Solar Power Europe, and I'm also VP Europe and International Affairs at Aqua Energy. Could I please get the next slide? And the next one again. And ideally, if I could get control. Yeah. So short recap about BIPV for the ones that are not specialists and are coming to this kind of meeting for the first time. So BIPV is an acronym that means Building Integrated Photovoltaics. So it details every construction product that integrate PV into any building element. So it could be on the roof, it could be on the facade, or it could be shading elements. So it is extremely useful to foster the deployment of renewable and to use surfaces that are not used as such for energy production at first glance. More and more we see that architects are keen in getting this kind of elements into their new construction, but it's also very useful for renovation. What is interesting is that it has several added values. So it brings power production, but it also brings water tightness and isolation. So I'll get to my next slide, or you get to my next slide, please. Last. These are a few pictures of what has been done over the world by different stakeholders, so that you can see on the facade, but also on the roof. Next slide, please. Let me introduce you to the current member of the BIPV task force at Solar Power Europe. After this meeting, I'd like to see more of these logos so that we can increase our discussion and increase the added value of being all together. Next slide, please. I would like now to come across with you the manifesto that we released in March 2020. And this was strongly diffused in the EU areas, so namely the European Commission, the European Parliament, but also sectoral association as ours. And so this manifesto, that is a two-pager, and possibly Miguel could share the link with you in the chat box. So the objective was to raise the attention of the policymakers regarding 5 actions that should be undertaken at EU level. First, we wanted to stress the need to have a market pull, and therefore every legislative text or legislative initiative should foster the use of BIPV, be it in the climate law or in the construction product regulation, or even in the renovation wave that is coming. So it's important to have really this pull. Then we requested from the European Commission to work on a specific industrial strategy. To do so, it was important for us that BIPV would be recognized as a key strategic value asset, and also that BIPV could integrate the IPCIs, that is the important project of common interest for the EU. Then we tackled standardization. For some of you who are very familiar with BIPV, you know that standardization is currently jeopardized around the different member states. And therefore, when you produce a product, it's difficult to enter a market, because each time you have to enter a new national market, you have to go through a different certification process. So we know it will be a lengthy process, but still it is important that the EU get together on this specific aspect so as to build a genuine EU market. Then the fourth point that was extremely important to us was the innovation and the training. because it's important that we move towards mass customization of solar construction products. And there are different kind of program at the EU level that already exist, such as the Marie Curie or Erasmus+, that could feature BIPV component. Therefore, this is the kind of actions we suggested. And last but not least, it was important for our group that from the start, we think about circular economy of the BIPV product. You cannot pretend changing the world through renewable energy production if you don't care about your own circular economy. And now I would like to go to the next slide and speak a bit about what we do at Akuo. I have 6 minutes left, so I will bring you with me to our own story, that is Sunstyle. So Sunstyle is a joint venture between Akuo and Sunstyle that is based in Switzerland, and together we created Sunstyle International. The next slide, please. So our product is a solar tile, as you can see, and we have already a 10-year record because we started 10 years ago in France. But then we have been working a lot on the product so as to increase its resistance, its resilience also, and then to work on different colors. Next slide, please. So here you can see the 3 colors that are easily doable. If you are in Florence, for instance, you can go for terracotta. If you are in Paris, you can go to gray. But then if you want pink or blue one, it's also feasible. But the mass production is available in these 3 colors. Next slide, please. Our market target is self-consumption, and per this slide, I wanted to give you an example of where it becomes profitable. So if you take a rooftop of 55 square meters and you install a Sunstyle product of 9 kilowatt CRET, then it takes you 7 years, sorry, to come to the point whereby you start earning money. So it's not so long actually, even for individual and especially for large industry or companies that would use such a product. Next slide, please. These are the characteristics of the product. So this slide is addressed to the one that really know BIPV. So the total weight is around 20 kilo. We have 10 years mechanical warranty and 25 years performance warranty up to 80%. I give you the figures about hail resistance, wind resistance, fire resistance. This is for the people who really like it and want to know more. It is 87 centimeters per 87 centimeters. So it's easily installable because it's square. Next slide, please. Hello. Yeah. As I told you, we started 10 years ago, but since then we have improved our product and we have been through many certification processes. So I know that some certification bodies are in the webinar now, so I'm speaking to your hearts. So we've been through the French certification of the system by the CTMNC, and then you can see the number, but pictures to illustrate what it is. Next slide, please. We have been to a certification process thanks to CSTB in Nantes. So again, you can see pictures. This was about soufflerie climatique. So honestly, I have no idea how you say that in English, I'm sorry. But you can get access to my slides and then look into the translation or ask question after. Next slide, please. Again, another CLCB certification. This is about wind resistance. So they were pushing our tiles through strong wind condition. Next slide, please. This was the another CSTB certificate to the fire. So basically, they've been burning our tiles. Very interesting process. So here you can see our tiles burning or not burning. Next slide, please. This is an interesting graph I wanted to show you. It illustrates our industrial scheme. So we order our glass from Saint-Gobain. They are delivered to our factory, VMH, that is in Châtellerault. And Sunstyle is bringing the design and the exact order. And then we assemble and we ship them to the customer. So roughly, the delivery takes up to 4 weeks until we get a full and detailed order. And we are the one managing our stocks. Next slide, please. This is a picture of the factory in Châtellerault. So you can see it's a very big production site. Currently, our capacity is 50 megawatts, and we are looking forward to extend this considerably over the next years. Next slide, please. Here you can see what the production chain looked like. So this picture were taken before the COVID crisis, therefore they don't have mask, but the new ones will be with mask, of course. Next, please. And then we decided, previous one, please, to invest to create a training that is composed of 2 parts, a theoretical part, and then you can go to next slide, and also a practical part. It takes 2 days. It's a 2 days training, and we have groups of 8 until 10 people, and we organize them once a month. We started by targeting at French installers, so it's currently in French, but then we will move on to EU-wide installers, so we will move to English as of 2021. Next slide, please. And to end up this presentation, I wanted to show you a few pictures. So this is the what we've done 10 years ago. So we have a REX of 10 years on this huge installation, 9 gigawatt per year. Next slide, please. This is what we're currently working on. So you can see blue colored tiles that is for the Expo 2021 now in Dubai. This will be the French pavilion. Next slide. And this is what is feasible for renovation of historical monuments, so that you can have an idea of how it looks like. And with this, I am ending my presentation with 1 minute delay, and I apologize for that. I hope you found it useful, and I will be available for questions after Ron's presentation. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Alexandra. I think I will now give the floor to Ron Andriessen, Director at Soliance. Ron, the floor is yours.
Okay, thank you so much. So good morning, everybody. And I would like to go quickly to our thinking how to scale up this BIPV products. So can somebody start the presentation, or can I do it myself? Okay, next slide, please. So we belong to the TNO research organization in the Netherlands. We have activities on buildings. We have also activities on circularity, and we have also activities on sustainable energy sources like PV. We have 2 groups. One is in the north of the country. It's located in Petten. And then we have a new one, and it's like 10 years there. It's in Eindhoven region. And that's more a collaboration between TNO and other institutes as well as universities. Next slide, please. So if you look, we are located in Eindhoven, but we work strongly together with our colleagues at IMEC, and they moved recently into a new building for their energy activities. So, and it's located on an old mining site, so it's a very attractive place to be there. Then on the right side, you see where the Science building in the Netherlands is located. It's on the high-tech campus. It's a former R&D headquarter of Philips, and today we have like 160 companies there, also institutes. So there's a lot of cross-fertilization for new technologies. And then we work also close together with our German counterparts in Aachen, so the Forschungszentrum in Jülich. Next slide, please. So there's a complete value chain. So we have 3 research organizations, and then we work together also closely with 5 universities located in Belgium and Netherlands. And all is related to thin film PV technology development. And what you see in the industrial contracts we have is that we have a gradual move towards integrating of PV on elements. And in this case, we work closely together with construction element producers. And they have now the question, how can we bring PV together with our product? So this is a very important change what happened last 2-3 years. Next slide, please. Now, to situate basically the challenge and also, of course, the opportunity we are in front of. So we have, of course, the climate and the sustainability question now. Now, if you look to our building portfolio in Europe, I think a lot needs to be renovated, of course, and it's mostly related to improved insulation, heat generation, electricity generation. That's basically what's really needed to bring buildings in the near future to this zero energy or maybe even a plus energy harvesting situation. Now, if you look to the building owners, of course, they would like to have lowest costs for renovation and installations. Now, if you look to the building residents, they like to have in general more comfort. They prefer to keep and maybe to improve even the aesthetics. And I think the Sunstyle, which was just presented, could definitely help here. And of course, these building residents during their lodge period, they also want to have like lowest cost settings. And so these are not contradicting requirements. I think if you look now in Europe, about 70% of the owners are also the residents. So I think these 2 requirements should fit together. Now, very specific in the Netherlands, we have like 7.5 million of dwellings now, of which are 2.3 million are social housings. And of these, more than 9 million buildings, of these 7.5 million dwellings, already 1 million have been renovated, but the first step. This is not really a zero energy building, but a lot of improvements have been already included there. So the ambition in the Netherlands is to basically, for the coming 30 years, to set probably about 1 million new dwellings there. But the 7.5 million dwellings that are there still needs to be moved to this energy neutral setting. So it's quite a challenge for the Netherlands. So meaning for the Netherlands, today we have like 1,000 dwelling renovations per year. So we have to move to 1,000 dwellings renovations per day. So this is the scaling up we are talking about. Now, if you look to Europe, we have like 250 million dwelling renovations required the coming 30 years. So this would mean like more than 8 million dwellings will need to be made energy neutral. This is an amazing challenge we have, but again, it's also very, very big opportunities. So how to organize this? I think part of the solution is to work in components. Meaning like multifunctional renovation elements, like roofs, facades, maybe windows also, area installations. And then in this case, also PV functionality should be part of it. And I think we all believe, let's first start with the roofs because they're well located. And then slowly we can go to the facades and maybe at the future to windows as well. Next slide, please. Now I give you a few examples what happened in the Netherlands the last about 10 years in relation to renovation. So already 8 years ago, 152 houses were renovated from class F to A+. It was a complete renovation with a new building envelope and including BIPV in this case. Now, the inhabitants had to leave their house for 1 week, still 1 week, but only 1 week. Yeah? At the end, they were all very happy with the result, but the expenses at that time were quite high. And one thing was, of course, related to the higher cost of PV at that time, but also to the approach of this project, because this was a one-time project, and I think a lot needs to be optimized as well, also around the building organization as well. So you see some price targets. So for renovation, the targets in the Netherlands are today like 25,000 euro per dwelling to go to zero energy. So this is another example. So the Panzer concept. Basically here they can do it in 2 days and the inhabitants can just stay there. So there's also an improvement compared to a previous example. In this case, not only the roof was changed, but also the facades and the indoor settings was also set into a more, let us say, 21st century setting as well. Next slide, please. Still another example. It's from the company BIPV. So they have also a patented approach to have a fully integrated solar panel roof. And you see here's 2 nice results of how it could look like. So it's a full roof that is replaced immediately. Next slide, please. Another example, this is done by Airspire, it's another company. There they basically had a complete roof installed on 14 homes, also in a residential area in the Netherlands. So it's about 70 meters of PV, and what you can see on the picture, it really looks nice. It's not really BIPV, it's really Building Integrated PV. Next slide, please. Still another example from RC panels. They make this prefab elements, and it can include BIPV as well. They can do it for the facade as well as for complete roof systems. Here you can see some very nice examples. Next slide. Now, this is another example. This is in a social apartment that was renovated with an energy skin, they call it. So it's from eigenenergy.net. And what you see here is that basically the complete facade has been equipped with solar panels. Now you've seen also the color that Sunstyle just showed. This is also an option here to make it look different than this black layout. Next slide, please. This is the last example. It's in high-rise building for the Netherlands, at least it's high-rise. So there are like 150 apartments. And what you see is that the facade, it is equipped with PV panels, but on another, let us say, integration way. So the facade is a little bit tilted. So if you look upwards, you will not see the PV elements anymore. You have just very nice facades, and the PV elements are embedded in the element, like you see on the left. Okay. So I think what we see is that last 25 years, a lot of BIPV projects took place, mostly based on PV technology push. So already Alessandra said, okay, we have to have this market pool here. Now what we observe now is that the large construction element producers, they're asking for solutions. How can we bring PV in or on our construction elements? So this is a very big change. This is a kind of market pool, but I would say the real market pool should come from the owners of the buildings. So that's really the next step. So they should be aware of that it's better to have fully integrated PV as well. And I think part of this market pool from the owner side could be organized by this zero energy buildings incentives that are now organized on the European level. So the Green Deal is part of this one. And then, of course, I think many people start to realize the climate is also changing very fast. So this should help also to organize this market pool, together with having nice products. And that's the next one. So we need really aesthetics, safety, ease of installment. This is also very important. And now we are looking with several building element manufacturers. How can we now integrate a PV element on top of certain construction elements? And to our surprise, in several cases, we could use existing production technologies for this building element in order to bring these two components together. So this is basically the good news. Now, what should we bring together? That's the next slide. So what we have today, we have fabs around the world that make PV elements, as I would call it, like for instance, crystalline silicon cells or flexible PV cells or mini modules. So this is available. But what we have then, typically, we have a kind of standard module manufacturing, and this is something we can basically only use for BIPV. So we need to start from this basic PV material, which can be supplied from around the world. And then we need to find a way to produce, we call it a PV semi-fabricate, which is basically a semi-finished PV module that has been made customized. So a certain size or a certain shape or with a certain protection inside. And then we have to bring that PV semi-fabricate to a certain building element, preferably by using production machines and processes that are already available on these building component producer sites. Next slide, please. So what would be required from the PV supply? We need a kind of uniform product, of course, high volume with high yields. Then for the PV semi-fabricate manufacturers, so this could be a new company or it could become a part of a building component producer, or it could be even become part of a PV producer itself. So it's not so important where it would be located. So it should be able to produce bespoke products, and it should be able to really produce in series. So also this is what we called the mass customization. Now then we have to go to these building product producers. So also they would go preferably into series production, multiple variants, process quality oriented, of course, and then it should end up in the final at the final end user place. So what is our role as a research organization is to develop integration friendly PV technologies, concepts for integratable PV semi-fabricates, and then of course process technology for product integration. Next slide, please. Well, very short, from the PV side, we see like a kind of 3 generations. Today, many PV elements have like 2 contacts, one at the bottom side and one on the top side. We can work with that. It can be crystalline silicon based, or it can be thin film PV based. It doesn't matter so much. The next generation, in order to allow to have this mass customization in place, we would like to have bottom contact PV elements. So only on one side there should be a contact, and that allows to really pick and place very fast this kind of basic PV elements into a certain shape or format you would like to have it. And then generation 3, as we see it, it's also bottom contact, but then with customized PV elements. For instance, you see an example for crystalline silicon cells. You can also start to saw this, and then you have like all kinds of shape and forms possible. And we can do similar things for thin film PV. I will show you in a minute. And then the next generations will be really the high efficient variants, where we really try to reach this 30% plus with, for instance, combining a new technology. It's called perovskite PV technology with, for instance, silicon solar cells, where we can really boost up this efficiency. If you go to facades, it will become very important to also have a better performance also there. Next slide, please. Now, this is an example how we can make customized thin film PV modules. So we do still a P1, P2, P3 interconnection, but we do it only after we have deposited all the electroactive layers we need to have a PV functionality. So it's fed in this system. It consists of 3 laser systems, 2 inkjet systems, so it's fully digital, and you can have any module shape you would like to have. Now then you have your basic elements here. You cut it out, and then it moves to the next slide. And then it enters in this machine where we make this PV semi-fabricates. So we have a kind of a backsheet and encapsulant. On top of that, we have maybe a kind of conductive traces. On that, we mount basically these PV elements. Then we protect it, and this protection depends really on the end application. If we glue it between glass, we only require minimum protection. If we glue it on top of a facade element, we need maximum protection. So the customizing is really the form shape, but also the packaging. And that's really crucial to come also to a mass production situation of this customized products. So this product itself will not be ISC compliant because it can be only tested in the full integrated situation. Next slide, please. Unfortunately, I could not show the movie here. What we did is we had flexible CIGS, which we brought together with a roof tile element in a machine that was already available at the production site. So we did not need to find out a new process, a new machine to bring both together, only maybe a slightly adapted gluing element, but we had immediately, based on the semi-fabricate, we could immediately bring it together with this building element. And this is what we called mass customization. Next slide, please. Now, what most of us believe is that I think we should really start with roofs, because there you have the highest electricity harvest potential. Aesthetics sometimes could be less important, but I think if you look to more historical buildings and for instance also in Italy, it's also important to keep the aesthetics high. Facades, I think we need further technology development. It's there already, but I think due to the fact that the orientation is not optimal, I think it's also very useful to start looking at even higher efficient PV technologies. And facades, they are quite visible, so aesthetics, it's more important than roofs, I would say. So also the aesthetics, there are several ways to do that, and I think we can definitely work on this kind of topic in Europe as well. And then, of course, the third one is windows. It would be great if you could also provide semi-transparent or translucent PV elements in windows. And this is also a work in progress. And for instance, for skyscrapers, it would be ideal because a lot of glass is used, and it would be a perfect solution also to have BIPV there. Next slide, please. So what you see here are some examples what we did. On the left side, we provided roof tiles with flexible PV here with the company Monnier. It's a roof tile producer. Then together with Hirsch and AGC, we developed an integrated building elements with OPV that came from Heliatech. Next, you see facade elements with a very particular shape. And inside, we have also embedded this free-shaped flexible PV elements. And also here, they were integrated by using the manufacturing process of the facade elements. And then on the right side, you see an example of an PV window element. This is a kind of a very early prototype. But if you could realize this kind of PV technology, it would be great also for the windows as well. And of course, if you see on the lower right, we need to improve these visuals. And I think Sunstyle already gave nice examples. And also here, so we have a spin-off in TNO. It's solar visuals. So you can mimic a brick wall if you would like to do that with solar panels, or you can go really to high fancy facade elements on the straight right side down. Okay, next slide, please. I'm almost finished. Now, how to accelerate the renovation? I think we need to think in repeats. So I'm teaming up with the Bouwhulp group. They developed some concepts to accelerate also the renovation. So instead of renovating 100 dwellings, we should go to 2,000 dwellings maybe, and to bring it all together in a big package. And for that, we need to have the supply of these building elements as well. Next slide, please. Now, the renovation itself, we should also consider it into steps, as I already indicated. I think roofs, it's perfect to start with, I think, not only insulation, but also with PV. Then gradually we could move to the facades, and we can also go to better, for instance, heating installations and things like that. So it will be a stepwise approach in order to come to this A++ and then maybe a little bit higher energy norm. Next slide, please. Now, also thinking in components is very important. So in the Netherlands, this Bouwhulp group, they collected all types of roofings available in the Netherlands, and they could make like 9 categories of this. And this also will help to scale up. Otherwise, you have each roof could look completely different, and then you have to restart all again. But if you bundle these groups into really components, let us say, then that can also help to accelerate this renovation. And of course, part of this game is also bringing PV together with all this. For facades, it's the same. They basically discovered like 7 different facade elements, and the same also for the spaces inside. It's also not unlimited. It's a kind of 5 of standard inside elements. Next slide. So this is my last slide. Now, if you look to the traditional renovation, that's the left side, a lot of the money goes to the process and overhead and also working force. So if you are able to have more integration of this building chain, so bringing things together, then you can have already quite some substantial cost savings, so about 25%. These are the estimates. And then if you really go to the idea of component renovation, so for instance, renovate a housing in 1 day or something like that, with all these prepared building elements, then you can really save about 50% in this renovation costs. And basically the material and the product cost will stay the same. That will not change. And then I would like to end my presentation here.
Thank you very much, Ron, for this very, very interesting overview of what you're doing and of what's happening in the Netherlands. I would now like to start the panel discussion. We have about 17 minutes. So without further ado, I mean, to the audience, please don't hesitate to send through your questions. Thank you very much to those who have already done so. I would like to quickly touch upon sort of another topic which is quite important for BIPV, and particularly if we're going to scale up and have BIPV deployed across renovation projects in the EU, which is of quality assurance. And I would like to hear about maybe how the mass customization model would enable the increase in expected reliability of BIPV products throughout their lifetime, and to hear about what the experience of Aquo is with your 25 years of work in this area. So please let me know who wants to go first.
Yeah, just a quick word on that. When it comes to the reliability of the product, having a REX of 10 years is certainly very useful, but since then our product has changed. So as you could see, we had to go through all certification process. But the certification process are important for the end customers when it comes to insurance. Because at the end of the day, you want to be insured if anything happens with your roof or your facade. So the liability part was key, and therefore we have spent a lot of time and money, I must say, to go through all this certification process to make sure that our clients could be as safe as with normal types, so to say. And therefore, if we go to mass production, we will ensure that we have a product that is kind of generic. So that's important.
Thanks, Alexandra. Ron, any thoughts?
Yes, I think I agree with Alessandra. It's a lot of work to do it, but you need to have your end product certified, that's for sure. In case of this PV semi-fabricate, we will need to develop intermediate certification processes, because before it goes to this building component producer, it should also have certain requirements there. And that really will depend on the final end product. So I think here we need to collaborate also with the final BIPV producer to bring up the right test for this PV semi-fabricate. And it's like if you provide, for instance, a certain material to a building component producer, also these materials will need to be between certain requirements. So it's nothing different from what is normally going on. But here, of course, you have this electricity generation part, which requires really different requirements as well. So this will need to be developed together with this building component producers.
I see. Indeed, and I mean, I think that's the key question: how you bring everyone, all of the different pieces involved, the BIPV producers, but also the architects, building component manufacturers together to ensure that the products are as reliable as possible. I think a follow-up question which has been asked is about the difference in certification processes between a mass customized product and a standardized product. I don't know if Ron, you have any thoughts about this?
I think it's a very good question. So there are two parts, I think. If you look to the tiles which were presented to Alessandra, this is one product that's easy to get grip on. And I think most of the building components will be like that. Of course, if you start to go into a prefab condition where you already combine building elements and you would like to combine also there on PV, then you could enter into a more complicated situation. However, I think also the prefab could also made up of individual BIPV elements as well. And in that case, we are not changing really the flow. So I think it's a very important question, and there's no one answer here. But I think if you keep it really on the BIPV element side, I think then we have a good situation.
Indeed. Any thoughts, Alexandra, on this particular question?
I have not specialists. I know we have CSTV colleagues on board, so maybe they are more up and running for this kind of questions.
No, I imagine. I know. Standardization is a huge topic, and it's difficult to get across. I mean, one last thing in this whole issue of quality assurance and certification before we move on to industrial strategy is something that was asked by the audience as well. What happens at the end of the life cycle of these products? I mean, again, I think Aqua has a lot of experience already in this area, and it'd be quite interesting to know how a mass customized product could be easily replaced, even though it has been built to bespoke specifications.
Okay. So two elements to answer. First, a specific element to our tiles. We designed them, contrary to someone who is very well known for many things. We designed them in a way that you can take out just one tile and replace it. So you don't have to dismantle the whole roof because you don't have too many connections. Because the more connections you have, and the more interlinkages between the tiles you have, the more it is difficult. So we realized that it was important for the people who are buying our product to be able to take out just one tile and replace it. So in the design of our tiles, this is something we've been thinking about. And then what happens at the very end of the life cycle? Well, it's like any PV product. And for this, it's only for the ones that are not in the renewable sector and that who still think that there is no recycling process, but there is already a full recycling chain that is in place, particularly in Europe, and that works very well. So it goes just the same way.
Thank you, Alexandra. I don't know if Ron, if you have anything to add. I really want to also get into the scaling up of ambition, which you both mentioned. I mean, Ron, if we want to get to these 1,000 renovations a day, and with a sizable amount of these renovations, including BIPV, what do we need to do in terms of industrial policy to make it happen? What types of support would you consider useful for your company, Alexandra, and the projects that you are involved in, Ron? Particularly considering the investments that are being discussed now in the context of the recovery package.
May I think what we would like is really to demonstrate that the concept works together with building let us say building element producers as well. So setting up the value chain around certain building component producers and demonstrate together with this newer approach to renovate that we really can speed up this. So we are setting up a kind of pilot line to make up this PV semi-fabricate that will definitely help. But then it should also end on certain roof elements, for instance. And we have discussions now with big building component producers to team up here. And yeah, if Europe somehow could help to support this, it would of course be very beneficial, of course.
Thanks, Ron. Indeed,
So
I mean that's what
we want to kick off really the value chain in that direction. That's always our.
But what's your experience been in bringing together the value chain together to put these semi-fabricates together? And
yeah, I think like 5 years ago, many of these building component companies, they would say, it's too expensive for us, we will not do it. But this is now disappearing because you know the PV prices are very low, also the basic elements. Now then the question is, this PV semi-fabricate, can it be also made at low cost as today's PV modules are made? And that we would like to demonstrate and then bring it together with really industrial processes with the building element, and then bring it to the building itself also. That also need to take place, of course.
I see. Thanks, Alexandra. Any thoughts on how we scale up the ambition to meet ambitious targets?
There are two ways to address this issue. First, there is a way that address the needs of the manufacturer. So if you take Sunstyle International, at some time we had the choice between having a factory in France or having one in Cambodia. And we decided to keep it in France for philosophical values, right? But with the current crisis, it demonstrates that we were right because we couldn't have our tiles if they were blocked in Cambodia. And so basically we have gained in having our factory being based in France. But for that, I mean, it's true that the taxation regime, etc., are much more higher in Europe than in Asia. And I think it is important that EU, within its relaunch strategy and everything that comes with the Green Deal, do bring a support to manufacturer and also let us know what is their mind. Do they want only to have manufacturing for mass production, or do they want also us to integrate R&D, like Ron just introduced to us, so that we are already on the next steps, that we don't miss the next evolution. So that's one thing. The second thing is when it comes to the customer who will actually buy the products. If you take the example of a tile, that is the one I know the best, it's not only about isolation, it's a solar tile. So it has three values. It has the isolation, it has the water tightness, and it generates powers. So we feel it is important that at some point the added value of those products and the added roles, so not only tiles, but the power generation plus water tightness, are recognized by the EU funding or support instruments that will be implemented at member state level, so that it's not the same as PV. It's something different because it brings other values. And so together with you at Solar Power Europe, we're fighting so that, for instance, in the new EU renewable financial mechanism, this additional role of this product is duly recognized so that we can differentiate between PV, which is already super cheap, and this new product that still needs support. So this is a twofold approach.
Thanks. That's very good to hear, and indeed we're working hard on the renewable energy financing mechanism. But you touched upon a very important question, which is the customer. How and I think it's even a broader question to the renovation programs, and how do we convince people to actually renovate their houses? And maybe you have thoughts about how BIPV, I mean, Alexandra already alluded to it, how BIPV can be part of this conversation we have with building owners, building occupiers, to convince them to actually renovate their homes or their buildings.
So what I hear is, okay, BIPV is one of the elements, and it's important, but it should be more sold like, okay, we will provide you much more comfort in your building. And maybe the inside of the building, look, it's very nice and modern. It's maybe more important than saying, okay, you will have energy payback time and things like that. So just provide them more comfort, put them in the 21st century, and also combine it with BIPV, with a very nice aesthetical approach. I think it's also how to sell it.
Yeah,
Indeed.
I agree with that. First, you need incentives for buyers to go for it, I think, because it's still more expensive. And then you need the right sellers, as Ron said. And there are two sellers that are important. One category is already pretty much on board. So it's people that do own social buildings because they know the process, they know it's good for the long term of their project. And then you have the architects. And architects, some of them are super forward-looking, like Bjarkingel or Forster & Forster, they're already on board. And some others, I must say, in my country, in France, are very difficult to move on. And so it's an education process as well.
Yes.
Indeed, and hopefully we can all work together to educate each other on this. I'm conscious of time. We have a little bit of delay. I'd like to thank Ron very much for your presentation and for participating in this panel. I would like to now to move on to the next item on the agenda, which is just the conclusion. And Alexandra, please, if you could be so kind, you have the floor.
Sure. So by this, I'd like to conclude this workshop. So contrary to real seminars, it's difficult to be in interaction with you, but I can see that you are still many on board, so more than 100. In my very first slide, you saw that we are currently around 15 members of the BIPV task force. I would really like to encourage you to join because, as you can see, this kind of exchange are super constructive, and it's always good to be in interaction, share ideas, and also fight together for the consolidation of our solar and EU industry. So please join us. We'll be very happy to welcome you. We'll have a real seminar at the end of the year in the new EU offices of Solar Power Europe. So be our guest. We will be pleased to have you. And thank you, Ron, for being with us today.
Thanks a lot, Alexandra. And indeed, thanks again to Ron and to everyone who attended this webinar, which I hope you enjoyed. I'm seeing some very nice words coming for both the panelists. So thank you very much. I would now just quickly want to let you know about the opportunities that we offer in terms of online visibility. So this webinar has been part of our Shine On Solar series, in which we have been organizing webinars, but also podcasts and included items on our newsletters, and are carrying out executive interviews. So please don't hesitate to get in touch with us, and we will be very happy to help you find a tailor-made solutions to your needs. So please contact my colleague Luis Manso. And then yeah, we move on to the next slide. Just the upcoming webinars we are organizing. On the 9th of June, we're organizing a webinar on the effect of extreme weather in solar PV projects. On the 10th, we are launching our Solar Power Europe Grids Working Group. And on the 16th, we will launch our flagship publication, the Global Solar Market Outlook, in a virtual format. So it's going to be very exciting. And yes, I think that concludes. We will be, of course, sharing with you the recording of this webinar alongside the slideshows. And if you have any questions, please don't hesitate to get in touch. I'll be more than happy to speak with you. Thank you very much, and have a very nice rest of the day. Bye.